Hey friends, Mindy here. I have a quick process video for you today. I'm going to be setting up my journal so that I can work through the Red Sea rules. This is the book that we're going to be working through with the community at Bythewell4God. I am just going to make a quick junk journal. I've already created my signatures here. I have some coffee dyed papers and some Tomo River paper, some Archer and Olive craft dot grid paper. I just already made the signatures off camera. You didn't need to see me cutting paper. And this fabric that I'm using is some vintage fabric from a house of books. There is a company that sells like vintage papers and ephemera. You can get a subscription to them, but they also from time to time have vintage fabrics in the shop. So be sure to check that out. I'll put my affiliate link down below for that, as well as my affiliate link for Bythewell4God if you're interested in joining us for the study of the Red Sea rules. I'm just cutting down the fabric. I decided to use the same fabric on the inside and outside cover for my journal, and I cut it a little longer so that I could have a closure that kind of wraps around. So I'm just kind of getting a feel for how I want to lay this out, and then I'm going to put some tissue. This is just some leftover Christmas tissue in here in the middle, and that's just going to give it a little bit more stability, but also it's going to give it that fun like crunchy sound. It's in the same way that like you would, I guess, do like some kind of polyfill or something if you wanted just a little bit thicker layer for your journal. This is going to be a soft cover journal, so I just wanted to have that extra layer on the inside. And tissue is one of the ways that I like to do that. So anyway, I'm using my little Singer quick stitch machine here. This is just a little tabletop sewing machine. It's the only sewing machine that I have because I don't really know how to sew. But I'm just going to go around 2 or 3 times, just really roughly, because I'm in keeping with the style of this kind of junk journal that I'm creating. So I have my 3 signatures here, and the reason I'm creating this journal this way is because I want to give myself room to expand in this journal, because I don't know how many notes I'm going to end up with. I'm an avid reader, and when I'm reading through a book, I like to take notes, and there's a lot of scripture in this book as well. And so between the note taking and all the scriptures and stuff that I intend to write out, I know that I'm going to have a lot of notes from this book. So I'm just trying to kind of prepare myself and give myself enough space that I can even kind of expand this if I want to. So I'm putting these signatures kind of in a rough space where I think I'm going to want them. I'm not measuring anything. Again, this is going to be a soft cover journal. So I did cut a little template here, the length of the height of my signatures, just so that I can get my holes in about the same place. And so I am marking roughly the center and then maybe like a 1/2 inch down from the top and from the bottom. And then I am making those same markings on the fabric. And I didn't measure any of this. You could certainly do that if that was important to you. But because this is going to be a soft spine, everything is going to be, it's going to kind of wrap around, if that makes sense. So I'm not, if you had like a solid spine and hard covers, you could measure, a specific space from the front and the back and all of that and kind of keep everything. But this, I'm just really trying to make sure that my signatures are evenly spaced apart. And that's going to be it. But this will also allow that if I run into the situation where I need more space for notes, I can always add in a signature at the end of this, because again, it's not a fixed in place spine. So it's just going to give me the kind of flexibility that I want while still having the signatures sewn in, I guess. So I'm using my little template here on the inside, and you can see I had to move that 1 page down a little bit because I wanted to make sure that it was going to get sewn in with 2 by 2 of the holes. So I am using some waxed linen thread here. I'm going to go ahead and cut all of the 3 lengths that I need. And I do this about three times the length or the height of the signature. You could do 2.5. I like to do 3. It just gives it a little bit more to work with, and then it gives, some extra hanging down. You can always trim that off later, but I just it makes it easier, at least for me, to work with the threads that are just a little bit longer. So that's personal preference. 2.5 times will do it as well. I just like to do 3, but anyway, if you've seen me do any other journal videos on my channel, you've seen me use this 3-hole pamphlet stitch all the time. It's just really easy to work with. It's sturdy, it holds up well, and so that's what I'm going to be doing today. So you can see where I drew out those lines, and what you can't really see are the little, I have little lines going the opposite way. So everywhere those lines intersected is where I punched the hole for my signatures. And I'm just going to thread my needle here. Again, I think I said I'm using waxed linen thread. It's just going to slide through there easy. And then I'm going to punch my holes here in this first signature, and I'm starting at the back and working my way toward the front, basically. So this is like the 3rd signature, and I'm going to sew that in. I'm going to start in the middle here and go from the middle to the outside and leave a little bit of a tail on the inside. And I just kind of hold that with my thumb while I'm working. And then because this fabric basically like closed back up, it was sort of hard to see where to put that hole or where to go back in. So I put my awl in there back into the hole from like the middle to the outside so that I could see where I needed to thread my needle back through into the inside. It just kind of did like a little placeholder for me, just made it a little bit easier. Going from the inside to the outside was no problem because I could see where I had made the markings on the fabric, but coming from the outside back in was a little bit trickier. So I just used the awl to kind of hold that place. And then I'm just pulling this thread through here to the outside. I had a little bit of trouble this time. It was just a little bit fiddly, and I think that's because the soft cover just kept flopping around, and it was just kind of hard to see what I was doing. But I'm just going back now into the middle hole and going into the inside, and I had a little bit of trouble because, making sure I was going back through the exact space in the fabric, and then also trying to make sure that I was not splitting the thread when I came back up through that linen thread, which I ended up actually doing, and you'll see here in a second, which I'm able to fix it without having to redo everything, which was good. But you can kind of see here, I'm pulling it. You can't tighten it when you've done that. So I have to kind of separate it. So basically I just went right through the middle of it. You can see there. So I'm just pulling the threads apart now so that I can do what I need to do, making sure everything is okay before I tie this down. And you can see those threads are loose on the outside. That's one of the things that happens when you split the thread like that. It's hard to get it tight. So I'm just kind of having to work with this just a little bit, make sure those are nice and tight, and then I make sure the tails are on either side of that long piece that's running down the middle, and then just tie that off into a knot. And so again, this is the back signature. I'm going to work my way up to the first signature now. I won't make you watch me do all that because it was a little bit fiddly with this fabric, but I did get them all sewn in. You can see I have that leftover piece there that's going to kind of flap around, and that will be my closure. And I did that specifically because I'm anticipating that this journal is going to get pretty thick. So I wanted to be able to still close it. So I have quite a bit of extra fabric here. So now I want to kind of make my little closure, and I'm just going to put some ribbon on here through an eyelet. So I'm measuring the middle-ish of this area, and I wasn't actually sure how well this was going to work, but I have this kind of this copper kind of colored eyelet that I'm going to be using, and I wasn't sure how this We Are Memory Keepers crocodile was going to do, but it actually worked out just fine. I punched the hole just fine, and I did need to trim down the fabric just a little bit. It didn't kind of cut it all the way through, but it did a good enough job. And then I was able to get my eyelet through there, and I was able to set it. It does feel like it's a little bit loose in there, so I may have to kind correct that later on. We'll see. For now, I think it's going to be okay. But I have this sari silk that I'm going to use. It was just a really good color, I felt like, but it was kind of it was a little bit fiddly because the stuff that I have anyway is like kind of remnants that have been sewn together. And so it was a little bit difficult getting all of that bulk kind of through that eyelet. And it ended up being the piece that I had just wasn't quite long enough. In the end, you'll see I end up changing that out. But for now, I'm just going to kind of go through here and show you the inside and the signatures that I created. And I want to add some interest on here. I don't want to add too much just yet because I want to leave room for being able to work as I'm working through the book. But I did have some papers that I had pulled out from my stash that I feel like are going to coordinate. And so I'm just adding a couple pockets here and there, just tearing down the pages, adding a few just pockets, some tuck spots and everything, just randomly through the book. That just kind of gives me a place to jump off, you know, a starting point at some point. And then I had to kind of restrain myself because I don't know how all of my notes and stuff are going to come out. And so I ended up just adding a few pieces of some of this, these pattern papers. These are just from old previous kits from Bythewell. And I just added those in. I went through my stash and found a few that I had left over from previous kits that I felt like would coordinate okay. I have a couple of these pieces. I'm just creating like little tuck spots along the edge and then trimming these down, gluing them down. I'm going to create like a little belly band with this piece that's left over. And then I can tuck things kind of underneath it. Again, this is just trying to give me a place to work as I'm working through the project. I know that, like I said, I'm going to have a lot of notes. I'm going to have a lot of scriptures from the book and stuff. And so I want to have a lot of ways to do that. So here you can see where I have switched out that fabric for some ribbon that I had in my stash. And I'm just going to kind of go through here. So I have a variety of papers. I have some coffee dyed papers. I have Tomo River paper. I have, well, two different kinds of coffee dyed papers. Actually, I have this dot grid paper from Archer and Olive. I have some vintage paper in there from a House of Books. And that kind of just is everything. And I'll go through and decorate these pages as I'm working through, but you can kind of see how this is going to come together. So that is everything. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. I hope that you'll join us for the Red Sea Rules. Again, I'll put my affiliate link down below. If you like this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And until next time, bye.